Hello friends, my name's Dan. This is Daily Art Adventure number 628. Now, in case some of you don't know, in case some of you wonder, what's this Daily Art Adventure stuff? Well, just for fun, it is a tradition, I guess, a practice that I started on January 1st of 2017. So that was 2 years and how many months ago? 2 years, 2.5 years ago. And all the way up to 628 episodes. And some of those episodes had 3, 4, or 5 broadcasts. So I'm well over 1,000. Anyway, welcome. My name's Dan. I'm an artist. And if you're a regular, thank you. If you're a regular, let me know if my sound is okay. It sounds okay to me, but you hear better than I do. This is a painting, and I'm going to try to get you the best possible vantage point. The painting I started 2 days ago on Saturday in the lovely town of Hillsborough. And this is the lovely Selena and Jeremiah. And I actually officiated their wedding. That's the first time I've done that in several years. Jeremiah did a bunch of snooping around on my websites and found out I used to be a preacher. So he said, "Hey, can you do the ceremony as well?" So it was a very good time. As you can see, a barn. The ceremony was out there by those trees. So I was very careful to get these trees into the scene because that's where the ceremony was, underneath a gazebo and so forth. And then the reception, of course, was inside this barn structure. It was very nice and makes for a nice painting. All right, so where do I go? Where do I go from here? This won't surprise you regulars. Almost any time that I embark on an oil painting on day 2, so everything is dry, the first thing I'll do is do a glaze, any colors that I want to, colored glaze over the whole thing. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm using, again, my medium of choice is Liquin Original, and it is very transparent, fast drying, and glossy, and I like all 3 of those properties. Now, unfortunately, the fact that it's glossy makes it pretty difficult for photographing, and as you can see, we get a lot of glare, but there's just not much I can do about that. So my apologies for the glare. And at the moment, I'm doing mostly oxide red, which is a brown. Don't be confused by the word red. Oxide red is very close to burnt sienna. If you've done any painting at all, you know the color burnt sienna. So oxide red is rust red, just like it sounds, oxidized. I don't know oxidized what, but it looks like the color of rust. So anyway, it's a very pretty orange brown, very transparent. So I like it a lot. Now I just did an awful lot. She's got an awful lot of red orange on her dress, right? But don't panic, because as soon as I finish glazing, the next thing I'm going to do is anti-glaze. Got it? Is take off some paint. But this gives me the opportunity, that the fact that it's all dry gives me the opportunity to shift color in any direction I want to. And I wanted to warm this up, which I've just done. I also want to make this corner down here a little less. It has an ever so slight green cast to it. I don't care for that. So at the moment, I'm anti-greening it. Get that terminology? I'm anti-greening it with a violet, slight red, purple glaze. And again, the terminology I use inside my own mind is I'm anti-greening it. To say that I'm going to make it red just is too radical. But to say that I'm going to make it less green, that's certainly not too radical. So again, it's violet, dioxazine violet, and a little tiny bit of permanent rose on this brush right now. So again, I'm darkening the corners. Pretty standard, trick, right, to vignette the corners. And I've already done that once the other night. So I had a great time Saturday. It was an afternoon wedding, and I got to paint for about 5 hours, I would guess. Not quite long enough, typically, to finish a wedding painting. But these, fortunately, Jeremiah and Selena live not too far from me. So when they get back from their honeymoon in China, she's Chinese, when they get back, I'll deliver this painting to them. So that is kind of a nice luxury, that I get the luxury of bringing the painting home and finishing it at my leisure, so to speak. But this is Monday, and I started the painting day before yesterday. And being a fairly hard worker, I'd rather jump on this thing and really get it finished instead of letting it. I don't have to have it finished for another month, but I'd rather not wait on it. Let's just get it done. Is my okay? I am liking. I'm adding. By the way, now I'm adding a little bit of ultramarine. I am liking what's happening on this canvas actually quite a bit, which I usually do. Okay, now I often ask this question. I said a few minutes ago, anytime that I have the opportunity to go into an already dry painting, anytime that I have, day two or the next day, I really should call it not day two, but next day on a painting, I virtually always give the whole painting a glaze, and somebody should say why. I'm assuming that somebody is asking why. Okay, so that question deserves a good answer. Here's one answer to that question. You ready? Why do I glaze? Why do I love giving a painting another glaze? Here's one answer. The answer is because there ain't a color made that don't look better with something else on top of it. Okay, so for some reason, how do you say artist in Chinese? That's a good question, Uncle 60. In fact, a number of her relatives were there, some all the way from China, and then a number of her Chinese relatives who live in America. And I don't know about you all, you, Uncle 57, or anybody else who's watching, but I don't know if anybody out there is paying attention, but Chinese people, I don't know what the word is. Okay, here's an analogy. Do African Americans dominate in the NBA? Yes. Do sprinters from Jamaica dominate the world of sprinting? Yes. Do Kenyans and Ethiopians dominate the world of distance and marathon running? The answer is yes. Okay, in the same way, Chinese people dominate the world of beautiful painting in just the same kind of way. So before the wedding, I was having fun with some of her relatives, and they didn't all speak English. So I had, I'd go to approach a group of Chinese guests and say, "Who here speaks English?" And of course, it was usually the young ones in the group, And they said, "Okay, are there any artists here?" And so I was just having fun with them, trying to let them know that as a professional artist, I have immense respect for Chinese and their ability to paint. Now, some of what I just said is almost politically incorrect. Now, it's absolutely scientifically correct. Why do West African people from West African descent, why do they excel at sprinting? It has to do with their muscles and their bones. It's not the color of their skin, it's their muscles and their bones. And that's not politically correct, but here's what I say to that. It's true. And I love it. I love that different cultures have different strengths. Anyway, and there is, in my mind, as a professional artist, there's no question. Here's another one. I'm a fairly serious musician. I know I keep saying that. You guys have never heard me play, but someday that'll happen, probably. I'm a more serious artist than I'm a musician, but I'm pretty serious. I'm practicing everyday kind of musician. And anytime that I'm the only white person in the band, that's me at the peak of my career. If I get to play with a bunch of black people, I have done something right, man. Same thing, because as a musician, there's no question that generally speaking, African Americans, and I don't know if it's from Africa or not, but African Americans have a leg up, shall we say, on talent and skill in the area of music. And again, it's politically incorrect to say that, but I could give two fat's ass rats for whatever that is, for being politically correct, because I'm telling the truth. Anyway, so I had a lot of fun playing with these Chinese people and saying, man, great respect. So I have no idea how to say artist in Chinese. All right, so the whole thing is glazed. The next thing I'm going to do, and I like, it just improved, by the way. The whole painting just got darker, which is a good thing. I mean, it's not good for every painting, but it's good for this one. It's better than it was. Now, I'm gonna lift out of her face, her arm, his face, and her dress, but I'm not erasing, I'm painting with a rag. I'm not taking everything off that I just put on, I'm just taking some of it off. Does that make sense? Depending on how hard I rub and how long I rub it determines how much is coming off. And then I'm going to do the same thing. This green field. This was a cow pasture, cows and goats in this pasture. The guests had a lot of fun. Actually, the goats evidently really liked the live music that was being played at the reception, because they came right up when the music started. The goats all came right up to the fence. That was pretty funny. Then a bunch of the people during the reception went out likewise and interacted with the goats. It was quite fun. It was a beautiful day. It was just Jeremiah and Selena could not have asked for better weather. It was not too hot, which would be the biggest danger at this time of year in North Carolina. It was, I don't know, a high of low 80s, maybe something like that, maybe mid 80s for a minute. But it was gorgeous evening, and as far as I could tell, everybody had a good time. So it was it's a real special couple. I say that probably because because I married them. My wife and I interacted with them, premarital counseling and stuff like that. So we really got to know Selena and Jeremiah more than I do most of my wedding paintings. I'm sure all of my brides and grooms are wonderful people, but we got to know this couple. So that was very special. All right, I think I'm done lifting, maybe a little bit right here. I think I'm done lifting out. So lightning. So what I've just done in the few minutes that we've been broadcasting here is I've actually, the effect is I've separated the contrast. I've bumped up the contrast about 3 or 4 ticks, because the whole painting is lighter. Avoid that. The whole painting is darker, but then I came in with a rag and lifted out. So do you see what I mean? The lights stayed the color they were, the darks got darker. So I have bumped up the contrast. And again, I don't know how well you're seeing the painting. Excuse me a minute. Nice shot of my bald head, I'm sure. Okay, and I'll turn this off for a minute, see if you can get a better view. That's still not very good. A lot of glare from the windows behind me. But you just gotta have to trust me. It's lovely. Trust me. Yeah, thanks you, Horatio. The balcony did come out nice. Uncle 60 is talking about he was watching evidently the balcony up here. It's a tweak of reality. In reality, this balcony was just outside the field of vision, but I moved it in, and you're right, it really did finish up. So I had to move this pillar, and there's a hint of stairs over here. All of that would have been outside the frame. Also, there's a little bit of outdoors. In fact, now that I say that, I think I want to lighten that up just a little bit too. So all of these elements were actually there in the barn, but I moved them around a little bit just to make it a better painting. So thank you, Horatio, for noticing that. I think it is a nice touch. Yeah, the sound is so much better. So I apologize that I was not able to do any more broadcasting on Saturday because once the band started, and the band was like right here, I was 15 feet away from the band. Once they start playing, the sound is, there's no way I can broadcast. So that's just the best I can do. All right, now it's time to get serious. Let me show you what today's job is really all about. And you regulars, you've seen this before. But any newcomers watching, maybe explain to you a little bit about what I'm doing. I want to move my painting over a little bit. There we go. And it's okay. All right. So here's my trick. Now, in fact, hang on. I'll show you how I do this when I'm at the wedding itself. This is my backup phone. Turns out having a backup phone is extremely valuable to me. The last time I got a new phone, I use Androids because the cameras are so much better than the iPhones. It's ironic because my whole computer world is Apple, Macintosh, But when it comes to iPhones, my wife got us started on Droids 10, 15 years ago. And that was a good thing because the cameras on the Androids were ahead of the iPhones for years and years and years. Maybe still are, I don't know. Anyway, let me show you a page. Sorry, hang on. Okay, so this is, I just want you to get an impression, and I'll blow up one of those and show you what I've done. So when I'm at the wedding, here's what I do. All right, so yeah, let me explain what you're looking at here and then what you're looking at here. And this is especially for any of you who are trying to learn how to do portraiture, or maybe you're already pretty good at it, maybe you're way better than I am. But there's this principle that I call portrait blindness, okay? It's a principle that I think, now there might be some genius, probably Chinese geniuses out there. There might be some geniuses out there that this does not afflict, but I have it on good authority that is by looking at other people's portraits that it afflicts most of us. So if you're just beginning portraiture, if you want to get into portraiture, then take it from me. You need to understand this principle called portrait blindness. What that means is after 10, 15, 20 minutes, not very long, a short time, after 10, 15 minutes of staring at your portrait, the thing you're painting, you are blind to the mistakes. You don't see them anymore. Your brain just kind of turns this into the right image. But then you scratch your head and you go, I'm not sure it's right. It's not quite right. And that's exactly what I said. And this is my this is my third go round on these. I've gotten so now that I don't even waste time working like for 30, 40, 50 minutes on a portrait. I work on it up to portrait blindness time, 20 minutes, usually at the most, 15, 20 minutes. And then I do this trick. Okay, so the trick is early on in the process, and at several points along the way, I take a photograph this is a camera now. I take a picture, click, of my painting. Does that make sense? So that's this. Let me blow this up. Hang on. I'll do this. So I take a photograph of my painting and I put it right next to a photograph of the photograph. Redundant, sorry. I put it right next to the photograph that I'm copying. By the way, I'm not copying the lighting on this, so that's not recommended, but that's what I'm doing here. And then, because this doesn't help me very much, when I was doing this, Selena's face, this is the photograph I was looking at, okay? So, but then in my camera app, in my gallery, photo gallery, your camera has the same functionality that mine does. You can edit it. One of the edits is you can flop it around. You can flip it horizontally. So I take these two images and I flip them flip them or flop them, flip horizontal. And now this, you see, she's looking the other way. This is a mirror image, both of the painting and of the photograph. And here's one of the ancient, so this is not new high tech. This is one of the ancient tricks for doing portraits. It is use a mirror. I want to say use a mirror, doggone it, because you get portrait blind. I took a class from Daniel Green, 100 years ago, and Daniel Green does the same thing. He'd pick up a makeup mirror, hand mirror, and look over his shoulder at his painting to see if it still reads right. Now he's way better than I am, way better than I'll ever be, but even he uses a mirror. Okay, this is simply a phone gives us the ability to do a high-tech version of a mirror, but it's a mirror image. Does that make sense? And as soon as I see my painting in a mirror image, here's my response. I go, oh my gosh, what was I thinking? And that should be your response too, because what does the mirror image? The mirror image corrects portrait blindness. Okay, so I've been looking at, say, her face for 15, 20 minutes, and I'm blind to my mistakes. I can't see them. As soon as I see them in mirror image, I go, oh my goodness, I'm a terrible portrait painter. What was I thinking? Hi, Izzy. So then I have a, what do you call it, app on my phone that allows me to put these pictures together. Does that make sense? Uncle 60. Yes. Horatio asks, can you get portrait blindness painting other stuff? And the answer is absolutely. Yes. Buildings, cars, landscapes. But landscapes are so much more forgiving because you can paint an oak tree and it goes this way, and nobody can point at your painting and say, oak trees don't go that way, because some oak trees do. So there's a lot more forgiveness in landscapes, say, than there is in portraits. But like with linear perspective, the perspective in a cityscape, yeah, you absolutely. So very good question. Yes, you can get portrait blindness. All right, so have I described, or probably beat you guys to death describing. So the top row is the mirror image, the bottom row is the correct. So once I get back to my house, once I come back home, then I have actually another wonderful tool at my disposal, and that is a printer, color printer. So I take these same images and print them up, and then here's what I do. I just engage in my, this is me, I just plug in deep into my analytical left brain, obsessive compulsive side of my brain, okay? Not the artsy, creative, free spirit side of, no. This is the mathematical, linear, linguistic side of my brain, and I label all the changes. You can see they're all not only are they numbered, I put a square around the number. How OCD can you get? Because the reason is because I just want to take advantage of my left brain and the left side of my brain, and I just want to take full advantage of my OCD because it serves me well. So I do it very carefully. I do it methodically. Probably these notes here probably took me 10 to 15 minutes. So it's not a long time, but it's not a short time. I didn't whack that out in like 4.5 minutes. No. That's 10, 15 minutes of work. I should time myself because that's just a guess. Okay, now it's real hard to go from this to my painting. Why? Because it's a mirror, it's a flip-flop, it's a mirror image. So then I spend another 10 or 15 minutes going from here, transferring all of these markings down to here. Now I'm telling you guys all this because I hope somebody out there who's behind me in the adventure of portraiture is paying attention to what I'm saying and do this. Doggone it, do it. Don't just watch me do it, you do it. So then I transfer all, and they're all numbered. This one goes from 1 to 13. 13 changes on Selena's face. So then I take all those 13 changes and I transfer them one at a time all down here. And again, crazy me, I number them with a little box around the number. Now, and the whole time I'm doing this, by the way, I'm still comparing it to the photograph. And every time sometimes I discover things here that I missed up here. So I just add them, like I call it 5.5, 8.5, and so on. So So that I started here with 14 changes up here, 13 changes, and ended up with about 16 or 17 changes. Okay, so then once this is done, what do I have to do next? Well, as you can see, it's pretty simple. I'm simply going to, again, left brain analytical. This is not artsy fartsy. This is not expressive. This is me being technical. Okay, and that's what you have to be to do portraits, to do good portraits. You can do weird modern art, Picasso portraits. That's what I think about that. And it's going to take me a while, and I'm going to get out some small brushes, and I'm going to start with number 1, and then go to 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on and so on and so forth. Now, that was a lot of talking, wasn't it? Having said all that, let's get to work. And I think, actually, hang on just a second. I could have done this before I started broadcasting, but I didn't think about it. I'm going to get a piece of cheap old masking tape. And I'm going to start with him because I'm right. Most of this work will not be with two hands. This will be right-handed detailed stuff. And I'm going to start with Jeremiah. So I'm going to hang this right here. Right here. So see, I'm going straight from here to here. Now, you'll notice, of course, that this thing that came off my printer, the image is considerably larger than the painting. That's part of what makes it, what helps me see my mistakes, is it's larger. Does that make sense? So I blow up to see the mistakes, and then reduce back down to make corrections. All right. Oh, here, let me show you another cute little trick. I just did this today. Do you see all these brushes here? Do you see that? Okay. I took my drill, got my drill, figured out what size to drill those holes, figured out how deep to make them all, and I just drilled whatever that is, 20 or 30 holes. I don't expect to use necessarily all of those brushes, but what that allows me to do, it allows me to get a couple of brushes with light flesh tone, a couple brushes with red blush, lips, ears, flesh tone, a couple brushes with dark, a couple brushes with highlights, and so on and so forth. So it just speeds up the process quite a bit. And evidently, the very first thing, so I'm looking at number 1 here. The very first thing I'm going to do is change Jeremiah's hairline. And again, I make no apologies for my OCD brain, if you will. At this point, it serves me very well. It serves me very well to have all these things. And by the way, here I'm using a maul, M-A-H-L, I think, or M-A-U-L, I think. All right, so tiny little change number 1. Top of his forehead comes in a little bit. Okay. Tiny little change number 2. So that's a dark colored brush. I'm gonna put that down here on the end. Change number 2. Now I'm gonna mix up some light flesh color, titanium white and oxide red, and often a little bit of Naples yellow. I don't want any of you to be taking notes. That's my opinion. In my opinion, you shouldn't take notes on how to mix colors, because you want to mix colors by eye. Here's an analogy I've never used before. Good cooks use cookbooks and recipes. Great cooks, great chefs, don't use recipes. They use their tone. They use their senses. I think that's true. Doesn't mean you can't start with a recipe. So I want you to be a good painter. Don't learn recipes for colors. Paint with your eyes. All right, there. Sermon number 463, free of charge. All right, now his top of his nose needs to move up and out. Okay, and that's not exactly the right color, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. It's pretty close. And his brow also comes out just a tiny bit. Okay, so that's change number 1 and change number 2.5. I kind of skipped there. So let's go back to change number 2, which is, oh, this is so good to get this fixed. Change number 2 is his eyebrow needs to be shorter on this end and higher over here, etc., etc. And you guys probably can't even see what I'm doing, can you? I'll try to zoom in for you a little bit. Hang on while I try to get you adjusted. All right, there you go. Is it out of focus?
Yeah.
It's okay.
We still have.
How did I get all that paint on my fingers already? Not sure. All right. All right, I'll let you watch me for a little while, but I think I'm going to keep this broadcast fairly short because I think it would be rather boring. So let's see, you know, I don't want to just broadcast stuff that's, you know, Sominex it on video. Yeah, Nelson, puts you to sleep. I don't want people using my broadcast to put themselves to sleep. Necessarily. Okay, I'm trying to mix up a medium flesh tone. A little darker than when I had it earlier. Hi, Lake Boo.
Hi.
Lake's behind me, watching nice and quietly. So I've got to shorten his eyebrow up here. And shorten his eyebrow up there. I'm going to do something right now that is very unconventional. You saw it here. I'm going to use a pencil to define an edge. Isn't that crazy? Now you know, of course, that in real life does not have edges, right? Real life does not have edges, but sometimes it helps for a painting to have a little bit of an edge, especially if it's this small. All right, that's number 2, number 2.5. What's number 3? Oh, number 3 is, oh yeah, darken the front of his eyebrow needs to come down a little bit closer to his brow. A little bit darker and a little bit closer to his brow. Now, I do think painting in this manner is a little bit nuts. I don't recommend painting this way. It's crazy. Okay. But I'm doing a portrait this big. Anyway. Number 4 is, wow. The dark part of his nostril. So let me get some red on this dark red. His nostril needs to move all the way up here.
She's already in house.
And then the shadow of his backside of his nostril goes here. I do, by the way, have one more trick up my sleeve that lately I started using, and that is I have some magnifying glasses. Now, that didn't come out right. I mean, I have some reading glasses. That's what I mean to say. Some pretty powerful, that is 2.5x reading glasses that I'll put on top of my regular glasses, so that I can just see this. When I'm painting this small, I've discovered it really helps to just be able to see things really blown up big. I don't have them with me, they're upstairs. I'll go and get them when I stop broadcasting with you guys. But that is, I don't know if that's a sign that I'm getting old or getting smart. It may be both. But even just having, all right, let me stop talking. That's number 5, 4, 5, 6. All right, I'm all the way down to 6, which is his bottom lip. So let me mix up a red flesh tone. Here's a surprise for those of you who are, again, perhaps entering into the world of portraiture. I submit this to you. You use your eyes. Don't trust me. Use your eyeballs. But here, this often surprises me. For white people, our lip. Oh man, it's out of focus, isn't it? Come on, can we do better? I'm sorry about that. Come on. Focus. Anyway, I was going to say that our lips are basically our skin flesh tone, which is warmish, yellowish, right? Tan, if you will, with more red blood. So that would suggest to me, to my rational mind, that most of the time our lips would be a warm red color. Most of the time our lips, because it's a combination of our flesh tone, say, which is a yellowish, reddish, orangish, it's a combination of our flesh tone and the color of our blood, red, which would suggest that our lips would normally be a warm red. The funny part is, very often, if you use your eyeballs, you'll discover, wait a minute, it's not warm red at all. It's crazy. Those lips are cool red. In other words, purplish red, tending toward the purple end of the spectrum instead of the a purplish side of red instead of the orange side of red. Now, use your eyes. Don't trust me, but if someone had told me that years ago, it would have saved me. I would have observed it a little more quickly. I'm sure that all expert portrait painters already know that, but for me, who's just kind of embarking on the early end of my portrait career, that was a little bit of a surprise. What? The lips are warm? What are you talking about? I mean, the lips are cool. I meant to say, the lips are cool red, purplish red. Are you kidding? Where's that purple come from? I don't know, but just for what it's worth, pay attention to it, because I have discovered that often is the case. Counterintuitive, I'm saying. All right, now number 6, 7, yeah, good. Number 7 is huge, and I'm going to use a pencil again. Is this crazy or what? This is crazy, but I'm moving his chin up considerably. This is the biggest adjustment I'm making on Jeremiah's face. Not only am I moving his face, making his face shorter, I'm moving his whole the collar of his shirt up, and so on and so on and so on. So I'm going to go ahead and do that with a pencil as well. I'm going to move his shirt up to about there. I didn't even get around to indicating his tie the other night when I was there, and I have yet to do that. So I have lots of pictures I can look at to get his tie, the shape of his tie. Moving his whole shoulders up a little bit. Okay, that's number 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 is the edge of his tie right there. 11, I'm getting carried away with this pencil thing. Oh, number 11 again. So I'm going to stop this broadcast pretty soon again, because I think it's a little bit hard for you to see. I am still missing my Mevo camera. Look forward to getting that replaced very soon. I'll be ordering the next one this week. I certainly like the Mevo camera better than what I'm doing now, is shooting straight enough from my phone. Doesn't give me as much control. Many excellent portrait painters, before they even start their portrait, they will go ahead and lay out rows, typically, rows of flesh tone, so that they don't have to do what I'm doing right now, which is mixing of flesh tone. In other words, I have one row of brown flesh from light to dark, another row of red blush flesh from light to dark, and so on. And like I said, that saves them from doing what I'm doing right now, which is mixing paint while you guys are waiting for me. That's especially helpful for people that paint from live models, because you don't want to waste the time of the live model any more than necessary. You want to keep things moving along because the model is always going to be moving on you. All of us who have painted live models know the reality of that. For what it's worth, my solution to that is when you start a live portrait session, you take a picture with a camera, like a camera phone. You take a photograph of the pose that you like, and then you continually use that photograph to help your model get back over and over and over again, back to the original pose. So if you don't have a photograph, you're just, all you can go by is the your painting at whatever stage it's at. All right, top of ear moved up, bottom of ear has moved up, not quite enough. Once again, I'm mixing flesh tone over here. Using a little bit of my favorite student grade paint, which is the only student grade paint I have on my palette typically, which is raw umber, which is for killing color. One time years ago, I was teaching a class and I was countering the age-old art professor mantra, which is don't use black. And most of you, if you've taken any painting classes, somebody somewhere, maybe all your somebody somewhere told you don't use black. And I have corrected that notion. That is not correct. Professors should not say don't use black. What they should say is don't misuse black. What they're really trying to get at is don't use black because black kills color. And then as I was teaching this in the class, and I said, but the fact is some colors need killing. And one of my students piped up and said, which ones? No. Oh my goodness. That's what you learn so much when you teach people, like, what? No. I don't mean there's some colors, that need killing. No, I mean in any given setting or context, sometimes colors need to be dialed down, pushed back. And that's what I mean by some colors need killing. So black certainly kills color. So if you want to use black to kill a color, go for it. My favorite color killer is raw umber. In most paint manufacturers, their raw umber is darker than their burnt umber. It's ironic. That's an irony there. If you're not thinking about it, usually when a color gets burnt sienna is much darker than a raw sienna. But for most manufacturers, it's the other way around when it comes to umber. The raw umber is darker. The burnt umber is slightly lighter for most manufacturers. Okay, I'm done. I'm up to number 11, 12. And ironically, I failed to number the changes on his eye, so that's pretty funny. I'm gonna go pick up a pencil again. Again, please understand, when I use a pencil, I'm not necessarily recommending that you use pencils. It is quite unconventional. Don't go to your teacher and say, well, Dan Nelson uses a pencil. I mean, you can do that if you want to, but please understand it's very unconventional. So if your teacher says, no, you don't use pencils in oil painting, they are telling you the truth. In traditional oil painting, you don't use pencils. But I don't care about being traditional. It's not my goal or objective at this point at all. It's to get the job done, and I have just found that it's a good shortcut method for getting the job done here on these tiny little, insanely small, I would say, portraits. About an inch and a half tall. The smaller you get on a portrait, the more difficult it is, by the way. Larger is much easier. Large portraits are easier. Let me correct the color of the side of this nose a bit now. Okay, it's looking a little bit more like Jeremiah. And you could say to me, or say to yourself, a little bit? You did all that work and it's not a dead ringer yet? And the answer is, yep. Or nope, it's not a dead ringer yet. It's closer. So what am I going to do next? Well, you can guess, can't you? What am I going to do? I'm going to do the same thing I just did. I'm going to do it all over again. Taking a picture of the painting. Now, if I really want to take the lazy way out, and I might do that this time, since I'm not in a deathly hurry, I might actually let this dry, and because it is much easier to work on dry than it is on wet. Now, right now, I'm picked up some ultramarine paint with my titanium white with a tiny bit of ultramarine, because I want to create, and then brown, because I want to create a very, very dull. So I'm picking up some of my dull, which in my world is raw umber, color killer, creates dullness. I want to create a dull gray to paint the whites, which in this case is a very dark gray. Talk about one part of the portrait that is easy to overdo. It would be the white of the eye. And right now it's when I wish I had my Superman glasses on. Okay, one more tip before we go. When you're painting really, really fine details like this on a face, here is a trick that might be worth. I mean, come on. Can we get it in focus? Okay, I'm going to back out a little bit, you guys. It should be focusing just fine, but it doesn't seem to be. Let me see if I can do anything about that. See if that gets better. Whoa. All right, a trick for doing super, super fine details. The trick is you paint from the background forward. In other words, like I just put a tiny little smudge of gray there in the corner of his eye to represent the white of his eye. Come on, get in focus. Oh, you guys, this is so bad. Again, I'm sorry for I'm not sure why it's not focusing. Anyway, I put a tiny smudge for the white of his eye. But it's a little bit too big. Surprise, surprise. So what do? I'm going to paint what is forward, what is closer to us than the white of his eye. Think about it. I mean, literally in real life, what's closer than the white of his eye? The answer is his eyelashes come toward us. They're this way. They're closer to the viewer than the whites of his eye. So that's a good example. Paint the quote unquote white of his eye, which is very gray, and then paint the eyelashes, which are black, after that. Then you're more likely to get a more realistic effect. Again, so this pertains especially to painting portraits. I'm going to violate that step right now by going in, and because I didn't do this earlier, I have to do it now. I'm going to paint the underneath his top eyelashes and above his bottom eye. There we go. I don't know if you can see that, probably not very well, but that looks much more like an eye. It looks much more like his eye, Jeremiah's eye. Let me do just a little bit more before we go. Yeah, just for fun, I'm going to pick up a pencil again. What the heck? And I'm going to do so I've done now 14. I've done everything. I'll go ahead and finish the modifications to this face before I end the broadcast. So at least you'll see the whole process from beginning to end, even though a lot of what I'm doing is too small for you to really see. Oh, let me go back for a minute to that subject of don't use black. Just understand that black kills colors, but that's all right. Some colors need killing. No, don't ask which ones. It depends on the painting. There is a very particular time when it is appropriate to use black, and here it is. I mean, nobody ever told me this. I discovered this the hard way by doing wedding paintings. If the groom is wearing a black tux, now you don't paint the whole thing black, of course not, it's absurd. But if you just use chromatic black, which is mixing, which is the traditional, and I do advocate the traditional approach is, how do you get black without using black? You mix, say, oxide red and ultramarine blue. That's my favorite to get quote unquote black. But if you're painting a black object, like a black vase, or vase in a still life, or a black ribbon on a girl's hair, or a black tux, it is very advantageous to actually use some literal black paint in here, in the details, in the small stuff. Okay, so no, it is okay. Don't believe the professors that tell you. I did, and I said it right. I echoed that mantra for years. Don't use black, until I discovered a greater, deeper, better truth, which is don't misuse black. And again, the reason for that mantra is professors are typically trying to get their students to not kill color. And that's exactly correct. Normally you don't want to kill color. All right, I've talked about that enough. But when you're painting black objects, that's often a very good time to do the dark side of a black object. You use a little bit of black paint. And again, of course, I'm not talking, you don't break out the roller and paint stupid, you don't paint a great big black blob. No, you just carefully, like an artist, thinking with your eyes, you use little bits of black for the darkest parts of the black tux. Now, just so happens, Jeremiah here is not wearing a black tux at all. He's wearing a navy blue or dark blue suit. So I have not used any black on his suit. All right, I said I was going to finish his face. Let's do that. So I'm going to carve up into his chin. Do you see where I raised his chin there a few minutes ago? And it looks like pretty close to a yellow ochre with an oxide yellow combination. But it needs to be opaque, so I'm going to add a little bit of white to that mixture and a little bit of raw umber. Again, color killer. Let's see if I've got the right color in my brushes. Nope, a little bit too dark. That's all right. It's good. That's an easy fix. I'm adding some yellow ochre and erasing his old chin. And also carving in carving into his chin. All right, I'm going to declare that this looks a little bit more like Jeremiah than it did a little while ago. But am I finished? Is this my last go around? Am I done? And the answer is an emphatic no. I am not. I can see that I still don't have a perfect likeness, and so it goes. So what am I going to do? Pout, cry, moan, groan, complain? Nope. And just do the whole thing again. Now I could continue just struggling along without doing that trick that I showed you with the camera and the mirror image and all that. I could just keep trying to fix it, but I find that I just get more efficient if I just take time to do that whole process again. One more comment. I keep saying that, don't I? One more. Well, don't believe me when I say one more, but I'm going to say one more comment before we go. The most traditional, the most effective trick for overcoming portrait blindness is a good night's sleep. Work on your portrait for 15-20 minutes, then put it aside till the next day. The second best trick is much faster than that, which is do a whole bunch of portraits at the same time. So work for 15 minutes on one portrait, then put it aside, and work 15 minutes on the next, and the next, and the next. I've done as many as 10 portraits at one time, then after an hour and a half later or 2 hours later, when you come back to portrait number one, all of your portrait blindness is completely gone, and you can see you can really see your mistakes at that point because you're seeing it with really fresh eyes because you bathed your brain. All right, I'm going to stop there and call that end of this broadcast. And again, I'm sorry that because I don't have my Mevo camera, my camera doesn't allow me to take a break and continue this broadcast later. It'll be a completely new broadcast. There's a strange dark smudge right in the middle. I just haven't tackled that. I haven't even worked on the coloration of his flesh tone very much at all. I'll do that after I hang up with you guys. But it does look a little more like him. It's still not killer, and it's going to take at least one more layer to get that killer likeness that I'm after. Of course, before I do that, I'm going to go and do Selena again. So, some few comments here. Hey, Uncle 60, thank you for that. Thank you for that super chat. I appreciate that very much. All the rest of you can follow Uncle's way ahead of you. One man appreciates my teaching there. Now, several of you do, and I appreciate those little tips you're giving me. Appreciate it. Oh, good. I've got a typo. I'll try to fix that. Show us the real nose on the groom by his eyes. Oh, thank you. Thanks for letting me know where the typo is. I'll fix that.
Thank you.
Can I here? Yeah, sure. Let me pull up a big photograph of going the right way. There's Jeremiah. And I'm one step closer than I was. I am going to go and get my super high powered glasses. It really will help. And by the way, I carry a pair of these now in my portable painting kit so that I can do that. But the other night, the reception didn't go long enough for me to get that far. Oh, your typo, not mine. Sorry. I thought I had a typo in my title. No problem. Thank you again, Horatio. Good to have your company. Appreciate it very much. All right. Thanks, guys. And I'll probably broadcast. I don't know if I'm going to broadcast the other portrait. I'm working on another painting, a painting I started last week that I can broadcast later on this afternoon. The next step, I'm still in acrylics on that one. Anyway, good to have your company. Appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks, Uncle, for the $2. More coffee. Appreciate it. Bye-bye.